welcome everybody. Those who are tuning in, welcome to our MET-Axe-Sharpening special. Today we do have a special guest with us, and his name is Adriel Teo. He's the founder of the Malaysian Christian memes. So Adriel, thank you for coming on board to our session. Now, I've got Adriel on, just connected with Adriel a week ago, and started saying, hey, his story was really interesting to share about how his the Malaysian Christian memes all came about. And then I just say, hey, the last I've connected with Adriel was back, I think it was 4 years ago, about 4 years ago, at a friend's place, a colleague's place, where we had a mutual friend, and we connected through a birthday party, and found that it was really interesting, and we started connecting with one another, being in touch. And over my time in Alpha, we met maybe 2 or 3 times after that during your SPTC, the theology. And so that's where I remembered Adriel Teo, and that's where I met him. And then I recalled, then after that, we've only been connected through social media. I mean, the power of social media keeps us connected, right? And that's how I managed to find out that, hey, I didn't know Adriel was part of the Malaysian Christian memes, the page, and he started that. But before we dive into that, we're just gonna give a little bit of time for some of our friends to come in. But for those who just came in on Facebook Live, welcome again. And for those who just joined us on Zoom, thank you for coming. Today is supposed to be another session, which I was supposed to do, but thankfully Adriel said he was available to share his story with us today. So I've shifted a couple of programs to another date, because that can be done another time. So a little bit to know is, yes, as you can see, it's Adriel Teo is the founder of Malaysian Christian memes, and so this session you can find it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as well as one thing I didn't put here is YouTube. You will be able to find this session also on YouTube. So yeah, do tune in on that if you miss out tonight's session, or if you like to recap of what Adriel has mentioned, you can tune in through there. So a very warm welcome, Adriel, and hello everybody. So that's just a short bit of how I met Adriel, and we will just dive in. Tonight we're just gonna find out about how Adriel had came up with this Malaysian Christian memes. It's fascinating. Before we came on live, I was just sharing with Adriel how we came up with the MET program. And funny enough, he also shared a little bit of how it came out, and the similarities, as he said, it was almost similar. But we didn't dive too deep into that conversation, because we're going to talk about it during the session, the main topic and the ideas. So yes, so we will move on. And so before we go into the questions, if you do have any questions for our guest speaker tonight, you can scan the QR code and the QR code that is shown here, and and you can put in your questions, and we will look through them after the session, after Adriel has shared his story. And the QR code will be shown in every slide. So if you missed out, let's say you didn't capture the QR code now, you can capture it during each of the questions. When I dive into the questions with Adriel, there'll be the code shown on each of the slides. So without further ado, Adriel, we're going to go we're going to go into the first question, which is practically really simple, and for our audience to just want to get a brief introduction about you. So, first things first, it's about you, right? And perhaps you'd like to just, share a little bit of yourself, perhaps what do you do? What do you study, and your hobbies, and some fun facts. And some fun facts. So over to you, Adriel.
All right. Thank you so much, Jesse, for the opportunity. It's really humbling that while I started, all of a sudden people would be interested to hear how it all started as well, specifically for Malaysian Christian memes. But a little bit about myself. I am a lecturer in Methodist College Kuala Lumpur. Currently, the acting heads of the General Studies unit, and I've been in MCKL actually since 2016. It is my first job, my only job, so that's what I do. I teach specifically a subject called character formation, where I basically teach about life in general and how to navigate through life in whatever seasons, be it from your relationships to your career to your identity and your purpose. I also will be teaching a subject called divinity this year. It's an A-level subject where I teach about the Bible mainly, from the prophets to the New Testament of the Gospels. Yeah, so that's what I do. But what I studied is I started off with a bachelor's of psychology in Help University, and as some of you may know, I just graduated last year with a bachelor's of arts in theology, missions, and ministry with St. Paul's Theological College. Yeah, and just a few weeks ago, I started my master's in divinity with Seminary Theology Malaysia. The door just opened up. I wasn't planning to do a master's, but the doors opened up, and I decided to take the leap of faith. Yeah, and so that's what I did and study. And a little bit of myself, I can say I enjoy jamming with my wife. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see me singing here and there. I enjoy jamming, but I'm not a full-time singer. I enjoy tending to my plants. Ever since MCO, I started planting. Um, I enjoy making very lame puns, even especially the bad ones. And yeah, I used to game a lot, but now I find myself maximizing my time in what I feel God is calling me to do. So that's just a little bit about myself. Yeah.
Great, fantastic. Wow, just a little bit for you all to know, SPTC is part of the organization that I used to work in. So I used to work in Alpha. So SPTC is part of this group of the church where there's HTBB, there's Alpha Malaysia, Alpha Asia Pacific, and SPTC was the theology section of part of the whole there's 5 entities lah, I would say, and SPTC is part of this. And if you guys are interested in theology studies, SPTC is one of the places that I find I attended a couple of open days, which is really interesting. But yeah, congratulations again, Adriel, on your bachelor's, and wow, on masters, you're doing a master's. Now that's something I didn't know. I knew you're doing SPTC, but sort of followed, but didn't know you're doing a master's. So wow, well done, man. Kudos on that. And a lecturer to juggle your time, with this. I gotta say that's full head on. Really, yeah. Right, we talked about a little bit about yourself already. We talked about what you study, talk about hobbies and some fun facts. Now I think, without further ado, we will go into the next question, right? And I think this is something perhaps we'll go into first for audience coming in who are tuning in right now, and those who just joined us who didn't know about it. How did Malaysian Christian memes came about for you, and what was the goals you had set out when you planned this? And of course, I mean, there's a group of you who did this, right? So yeah, perhaps you just like to share the story of how this came about. Yeah.
Okay. I'll try to be brief. Jesse, feel free to cut me anytime if you think that I'm giving unnecessary info. But there was no. It was more like a discovery or a conviction rather than something that I had planned to do from the very start. So simple story. The real issue was I wasn't disciplined in my social media usage. So there's nothing awesome about how it started. Okay, Facebook was digging into my time because the way Facebook curates all your data to give you the things that you want to see. So I scroll every 5 minutes. There's a really good article. There's a really good video. On economy, on theology, on politics. So what happens was After that, I realized that after that few scrollings, an hour is gone, just like that. So I made the conscious decision to, number one, delete Facebook, and then eventually deactivate my Instagram account. So that's how it all started. I'm on the more paranoid side as well. What I mean by paranoid, I read up on people like Edward Snowden, the whistleblower, and what CIA and, does and all that, and how we have to know what is data privacy on cyberspace and what is data security and all that. So there's that, and the fact that, final point, social media was starting to be really toxic to me. On Facebook, people are provoking one another on whose theology is right. This is what I'm seeing. Then there's the liberals, the conservative, the leftists, and the rightists. It's all crazy, and like I'm hearing from my friends now, especially with the current whole Trump season, it's even more havoc on Facebook. So, and the social justice warrior. So I'm glad I left that. But then by then I had like 1,400 followers on Instagram, simply because I'm a lecturer. Students naturally follow me, but my colleagues were like telling me, Adriel, for you to deactivate is such a waste. If you want to impact the society, why not impact with the followers you already have? But I said no. I left it deactivated, but then there was this sense of loss, or this burden or conviction where, for what I do, the target market that I want to reach out to are the very people who are in cyberspace, the young adults, the teenagers, and they are roaming in that space, not knowing how to navigate properly, just knowing that there's these two buttons to click. And so I thought, hey, why not I try to reach out to them in a different manner? And I'm not really good at making memes, just so to say. I can make okay memes. But I thought, what if I could use a meme language to share the gospel? So Malaysian Christian memes start off with just me. And the first few hundred people knew who I was, because I just told my current account, I said, okay, I'm leaving this for good. Okay, I'm just gonna go there. Up to you whether you want to follow me. This is what you're gonna expect. But the whole goal is, after that, I kept my identity anonymous because I wanted them to follow a vision and not the person. So I wanted them to follow a vision, not the person, so that they don't get to say, oh, I know Adriel, or this is my friend kind of thing, but rather this page does something that is worth being part of. Yeah, and the goal at that point of time already was, the vision I had was where Malaysian Christians are actively discipling one another in order to live out how God designed them to be. So the mission of it within Malaysian Christian memes was to use memes as the means to share the gospel. It's a tongue twister. To share the gospel and also give biblical sound teachings as much as possible. So that's how it all started. This specifically for the memes. We're not even talking about a podcast yet. And then, it's so interesting. So why I activated my account again and how you managed to find me back here again was this. The numbers started growing, and because other memes account, the way they grow it is they will purposely follow other meme pages, get to know them, post their stuff, share their stuff, and then vice versa, everyone will share, and it's a shared community of people wanting memes. I could have done that. I didn't want that. I wanted the growth to be more organic, which means you do not know who I am. You just see the memes if it is something that you resonate with, where I'll post a meme and then there'll be like a short sermonette, right, explaining the meme even more, or biblical truths. If you like what they see, then choose to follow it. So that was my hope, and it was an organic growth. So while other meme pages became 10,000 within months, I like 10 every week, and you kind of thing, something like that. And so what happened was, it grew to a number, and I was having lots of community engagement. People will be asking me questions on ideas, because on Malaysian Christian memes, there were not just memes. Every Thursday, I'll post up Malaysian Christian praise, where they will share their prayer requests, and I'll personally type out a written prayer for them. And then on Saturdays, there's a Malaysian Christian response, which was the one that went crazy, where they can ask whatever questions they want regarding the Bible, and then I'll respond to them. So you get questions like LGBTQ lah, what's God's will for my life lah, Bible verses, etc, etc. So it came to a level where I said, okay, I cannot manage this on my own. I need a team. Okay. And so I sought out people who had the same heart for discipleship on the cyberspace platform. And I did find these people. One of them, I call him Insta Pastor. His name is Benjamin Chan. So he helped out with also the Malaysian Christian Praise and the response. And he also helps does the one-on-one conversations if the people who connect Malaysian Christian memes want to talk specifically to him. And the other person is I call him a meme-maker. We create memes on Instagram. Um, uh, Again, difficult memes. His name is Kenneth Ho. I think currently, so Benjamin Chan from SIB. So I'm from Victory Church, and Kenneth Ho is from SMAC. So we have a long range of denominations there. Not best represented, but there's three of us. So with this team, they take the load off me so that I can focus on other stuff. But the goal has always been the same, that all three of us, I want to create a community and a platform where I can teach them to about biblical truths, to disciple others and be discipled at the same time. And so we are very real on that page. So yeah, that's a little bit on that. So anything else you have to specify further lah? Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing, Adriel. I mean, to hear that, that's just incredible. And I'm pretty sure, as you mentioned, is you didn't even talk about the podcast, right? And what got you coming up with the talk? You know, now you have these Malaysian Christian memes, and then, of course, now I'm just going to show a little bit of picture, guys. This is Malaysian Christian memes. You can follow him, and this is so good. And I think one of my favorite was, of course, you know, when I see when MCO hits Malaysia again, the gardenia bread thing, that is so true. Gardenia, right? Everybody first thing, and this was exactly what everybody related. The gardenia bread, everybody just said, oh, it just disappeared, right? And sure enough, the second time MCO hit, a friend of mine took picture. Yeah, gardenia bread literally went sold out. I'm like, wow, it's really worth the goal, right? And so this is part of that. Of course, I put just pun intended, because it's a meme, so I put it there, follow your dream memes. And then, of course, you have this Malaysian Christian talks. This is amazing. I was just like, wow, you have Malaysian Christian memes, and you came up with the Malaysian Christian talks. So I think you briefly explained a little bit of what you were trying to do with your Christian, how you came up with this. Talk us through about the talks, because you when you talk about memes, I think you talk about a bit about discipleship and reach out. So how do you manage both these talks and the memes? Now that you have four of you, right? I'm surely not just you who would perhaps like not just you who would just focus on the memes, because as you mentioned, right, you are okay with memes, but you've got somebody focused to help you out on that. Are you more on the talk side? Do you come up with that, since that, I guess, not knowing your two other friends, and probably you just did your master's in theology, something why you also talk about, hey, I want to talk more about Christian talks after my learnings? I'm not sure. That's just my curiosity from my side.
So when you word it that way, right? I sound like a crazy person. Okay,
No,
I sound like a person. No, like
Oh,
yeah, my time is all sucked up, kind of thing, and rightfully so. So wait lah. Okay, let me just lay it out there first. I won't be able to do this mainly if I did not have a really, really supportive wife. Okay, like really supportive wife. And this story I'm going to share on how Malaysian Christian Talk started is sharing another person's testimony, and you'll be surprised. Okay, but she told me not to tell her name, but let me just so what I realized as I'm doing Malaysian Christian memes is the memes number one, is that Malaysian Christian is a very niche market. The Malaysian Christians in Malaysia, number one, is not many. We only like 2% of the whole population, and majority of that 2% are actually Bahasa speaking, right? And I haven't even reached the Chinese market yet, and so there's a lot of target markets that I haven't reached yet. And just to give you a bit of a future vision with these two, I hope to one day set up this a larger entity where there's Malaysian Christian memes, Malaysian Christian talks, maybe a writing platform, Malaysian Christian Writes. And this is the ultimate dream, if it's even possible, Malaysian Christian Teachers, where modules can be churned out for people to come in under the platform to learn. But that's like, again, the whole vision is to train people up to disciple one another in their God given design. So when I was doing Malaysian Christian, the responses, the Q&A, I realized that the people were asking the same questions again and again. People were so hungry for perspective. Okay, they're so hungry for perspective, and I realized that an Insta story, though clear or succinct, I know needs a lot more unpacking than just one Insta story. And typing my fingers on a small screen is definitely not ideal. Yeah, so I made this crazy thought to say, what if I unpack it into a podcast, a podcast version or a vodcast? But my initial question is, okay, don't take this the wrong way. When I say this, I'm bombing myself. Is what is the church doing? That's my question. What is the church doing that are failing to respond to these questions? And when I actually did ask some of two, I tell you, it was heartbreaking to say, if I ask this question, my pastor will shoot me down, I'll be shunned by the community. So there's no safe space for me to ask other than Malaysian Christian memes. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I need to do something about it. But since I have the team, I got the team to focus more on doing the memes and community engagement on Malaysian Christian memes, while I get to do Malaysian Christian podcasts. This Malaysian Christian talk, sorry. Here's the amazing part. I said, Lord, it's crazy. I'm doing my masters. I'm doing a management role in MCKL now. I just got married last June, so there's all this in play. But Lord, I'm just trying to discern where you're calling me, and I'm trying to be faithful. So I, for one, I'm not a fan of celebrity Christians. Okay. So I'm not a fan of actually appearing out on the screen. I'm not a fan of someone who, okay, I can't think of a name, but this whatever is like Stephen Furtick, he's a celebrity pastor, he's on the stage and people are cheering him on. That's one example. There are a lot of others but I was just giving examples. But I know there was a need to be filled. And here's the cool thing: after posting my first episode on the Malaysian Christian Talks, someone out of nowhere just messaged me, Adriel, by any chance, do you need a DSLR camera? I was like, yes, I do. I'm starting a podcast. Okay, I give it to you. I said, I loan it to you, she says. I said, okay. Maybe when I get enough money, I pay back the amount. Then when I saw the receipt, 4,500, I said, I'm so sorry, I cannot afford this. Then she says, no worries, I was planning to give it to you anyway.
Wow.
Okay. Yes. So I'm like, okay, so all I need to do is buy a mic. Okay, that one's fine. And I'm so humbled because only this month I got my bonus from my company, and I wanted to give her a token, and she said, just donate it to Malaysian Care. I'm like, wow, that level of generosity. I am very humble, I said. But these are certain moments that that really help affirm what I want to do, what I needed to do. But what made Malaysian Christian Talks easy already was most of the things that I wanted to expound on were already in my head. So the list of episodes were there already.
Wow.
Yeah. And next week I'm posting up the next episode of what is there's no such thing as a normal Christian. That's the next episode. Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I hope so lah. I hope it's convicting. So that's how it all started, and the process was tedious and crazy, because I had to set up my whole setting here. I have to set up the mic. I have to put the camera in front. I have to put my points behind the laptop. I had to download Audacity. I had to click record, download my voice, then take out the SD card, then do all the recording, put in the funny memes, and that all like one whole day of editing. I have to finish one whole day because I have work to do. You see. Yeah, and grateful for a really supportive family, really supportive wife, and supportive friends that see me through. So that's how Malaysian Christian Talk started, as a need to delve deeper onto biblical lenses and understanding in which the memes may not be sufficient enough.
Wow, dude, that's like I'm just inspired. I'm like just inspired by the way you take a day off, the way you're managing your time as well. And I think one thing I can really relate in that sense, I won't say totally relate, but I would just say, when we have this passion to do it for God, you just do it. And I think you just do it, even though it takes your time, you just say, no, God, if this is what you tell me to do, I'm going to do it. Yeah, you
In fact, I will add one more bit. I am ever ready to give up Malaysian Christian memes the moment God tells me to. If that is to stop it or to pass it down to another person, because I come in with a realization and a recognition that this platform does not mainly belong to me. It is more like I'm a steward of this movement, or when I say movement, perhaps doing theology in cyberspace kind of thing, like similar to what you do. Yeah, so I'm just a steward. So the time comes, if I need to move on, I will gladly just move on. Yeah.
It's about planting the seed, and then after that you reap you just sow the seed, and then you just pass it down to others. If God calls you to do something else, this seed, I've already planted this, it's time to move on to a new chapter. If God calls me to, I'll leave it into somebody's good hands to run it. God has called me to something else better. Wow, that's incredible. Like, from your podcast to this and to what you just mentioned, you're probably thinking and vision. I think a lot of my thoughts as well. I'm just saying, wow, that's just incredible what you did. And I shared something. I think it was really something that caught my mind recently. Was I said, if there's anything for me to reflect back on when I started this my own program, was that I told my own team members, let's do revisit the MET. How did all this come about? Because there's one word that every time we say, we need to remember where God has taken us, right? Where did we start from? And so I said, guys, let's do this. Let's reflect back. And when the time comes in future, when we say, like you just said, if I have to pass this MET program to somebody else to run, at least there is a beginning there where we can say, hey guys, this is where we begin. This is where it all started. And that's just incredible to remember what, for us, what God has done in that small plant, from that small thing that He placed in our hearts. And I find that, like your story, what you just shared, it just moved me as much, and makes me inspired to move on for my own program, moving forward.
I'm glad. Yeah.
It's really, really inspiring, the stories, and I found it really interesting. Wow. Again, guys, if you have any questions, again, for our speaker later, there's the QR code. I know this page didn't have QR code because I needed to show you all some of these things. So again, if you can follow Malaysian Christian memes as well there, and on Spotify, you can follow Malaysian Christian Talks. Yes, some of the topics I find it really interesting. I've been tuning in a couple of weeks. The other thing I'm just gonna ask, Adriel, with your time now, is how frequent, like with your time now, like this has grown, right? The posting, you were sharing about the posting. So at that time, on your own, and I definitely can feel how you feel, because right now I'm trying to delegate the job to my team as well. But currently, I'm doing all the postings for my own MET podcast, and I can see why it's tedious, because there's some programs I still need to upload onto my podcast. So how frequent, or when can we expect? Actually, I'm putting too much pressure. Let's cut that out.
Okay.
But when do you usually? When is like your latest episode you post up? Perhaps like your Malaysian Christian Talks, or when can we look forward to that? Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So I have to create a sustainable system. To which I need to survive, because whatever it is, my main JD is what I do in MCKL. So if I do that badly, it'll be a bad testimony regardless. So for example, I'll just tell one of the memeters on my team. I say, Kenneth, can you make a meme about creation, or can you make a meme about sound doctrine? Then he said, all right, boss, then you'll do it. Then I was like, Ben, someone just messaged in Malaysian Christian memes, can you handle and talk to that person? So you noted. So that's one of the things you do. So that's how I delegate the roles. And making memes is tough in a way where I make 10 memes, probably only one gets passed through, filtered after everything. So it's a lot of trial and error. But I safeguard myself by making sure I post a meme once every 4 days. So there's a cycle. So other meme pages can afford every day and sometimes more than one memes in a day. So good for them. I'm so sorry for those who are following. It's only once every 4 days. Malaysian Christian talks are once every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, so I get a breather as well. Yeah, so that's how I create the system. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, with what you're doing, balancing your theology, working, and this, that's like once in as you said earlier, that's quite a lot already, especially you're balancing. I have to be honest with you, you're doing quite a lot as well, even though you meant what you mentioned, like the Christian talks once in every 2 weeks. That's really good already, because sometimes some people take like once in 1 month. You are doing like once in every 2 weeks. Some of the so that's really incredible. Wow.
If I may add, right, I think what helps also is that there is this unity in what I do, unity in the sense where it all boils down in a space of theology and discipleship. That same goes with MCKL. Like what I teach also is a similar idea. So I guess it helps in a way where when I shift from talks to memes to work, my mind is still thinking about the same themes, just different platforms. So I'm just putting out there, just perhaps it helps that way as well, I think. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now that we talked through all of this, and then coming to our next and final question. So again, here's the QR code. If you haven't had the time to scan to ask our guest speaker a question, there's a QR code bar there. We'll go through it after this. Speaking of that, I'm going to talk a little bit on challenge because with all our guest speakers, we always hear inspiring stories. So the pandemic has brought a lot of challenges to everyone, and I believe one of the ways we could learn and encourage others is through stories that people share of their struggles and how they overcome from those challenging times or situations. So my questions to you is, of course, I think you mentioned about juggling. One of the things is you have to balance out your time to do this. But I think I'm going to come from a different perspective. Apart from just MCM and MCT, your Malaysian talk, as a teacher, right? During these challenging times, perhaps you can share from the perspective some of the challenging times you've gone through and how you've come through this situation. How would you like encourage some of us who are going through challenging times, or what are your advice you could share, like inspire us, or what we do during this time? So, yeah.
Okay. So this extends more than what I do, is my everything as well. Okay. I think it is the realization. So I go through, as any of you go through, I'm very much a human being. I'm very much just a man, not just any man, a broken, constantly failing, sinful man that needs to rely on the grace of God in everything that I do. And I'm grateful that my story may not be replicable for any other people, but I'm grateful that I'm still seeing pockets of His faithfulness in my life. So for starters, how I'm going through these challenges is I have a supportive family, supportive team, but mainly because as I journey with God, like for a better word, actually that's the fine word. As I journey with God, and you start to realize that you put on the same lens by which God puts on as well, and then you realize that when you are given 24 hours, 24 hours is not much, and all of a sudden there is this convicting moment where you need to make the most out of your time. And I'm reminded like Ephesians 5, live like the wise, making the most out of your time. Colossians 4:3-6, so making most of your time. And because of that, naturally you start to shift. So for example, if I'm to play give me a game, Maple Story on the computer, I'll ask myself this question: why am I playing this game? To what cause am I advancing? And if that doesn't advance the kingdom of God, then I said, oh, then I need to change my time usage, you know. So but that, of course, I do allocate time for leisure and all that. So I have times like, you know, I watch Korean dramas with my wife once in a while, Crash Landing on You. But then also you learn about North Korea, so which is really interesting. But in short, I will go through all these challenges, and the only thing that I can think about that wraps up this whole what's the word how to deal with these challenges is be clear in who you are and what you're called to do. And because once you're clear in this, you will know what to do with your time. But I guess your question also added on a secondary layer of, especially in this time of this pandemic, yeah, and this can be tough. How do Jesse, you know, when I'm going to say this, I ask for humility to just straight on correct me if you disagree with what I'm going to say.
No problem. Yeah.
Yeah. But one thing I realized also is I feel that in this pandemic, if anything, 2020 has taught us is that what we place our hope in, our job security, our earthly riches, our entertainment of what the world can offer us, clearly is the hope that never lasts. COVID has shown us what we think we place our hope in is the last thing we need to place our hope in. Are we placing our hope in our failing government? Oops. Are we placing our hope in our government? Sorry, you can edit it out. I don't know how. Are we placing our hope in a vaccine? No. I mean, if you're a Christian, we know as we read scriptures that Christ is coming again, that the kingdom of God is going to come and consummate everything. And my hope is the only hope which is in Christ and Christ alone. He is what He has done, who He is. And if anything 2020 has taught us is we need the church to wake up. That's my advice in this pandemic. And it breaks my heart that I find many churches failing to look into this situation on how do they see technology that is ever growing and COVID-19 has definitely become a catalyst for technology for a lot of things, failing to see how to do church in such a space when we cannot meet, yet scripture says let us not stop meeting one another. How do we make an effort? How do we make an intention? How do we disciple? How do we be the church in the 21st century instead of, okay, I'm just bring two groups, okay, instead of having one being comfortable, okay, and let me qualify what comfortable means. Oh, I'm a Christian, I have a job, I have a family, I'm generally not a bad person, I go to church every week and I serve here and there. Okay, there's that comfortable side of things, and without the urgency of the gospel. And then there's the other group of intellectual Christian scholars who are debating whose church has the better theology, which church is correct, which person is liberal, who's conservative. So there are these two group of people that are observed in this space, and like I sometimes want to take a small hammer and knock both of their heads and hey, can you look at the church that's broken and struggling instead of waiting for a vaccine so that we can meet face to face? And I'm not saying that you cannot appreciate the life we have now. I'm not saying that there's no space to have discourses of theology. What I'm saying here is that we need to wake up and take notice of what is going on with the world and not remain in a bubble. And ask yourself, are you living the life God has called you to live? That's the question. And I'm very grateful that along this journey, I have met you. I have met people like Pastor Ivan Ong, who does Raw Talks. I have met Kelvin Chia, a Malaysian who's studying in Cambridge but does Bible readings every day, King Canvas, Train of Thought podcast, Pocket Full of Grace, Explain Apologetics, the list goes on. These are the same community who are entering the cyberspace and trying to reach out to the current generation, which are lost, and somehow, if I may humbly put it, the church may not be able to provide an adequate response or adequate form of discipleship, And the question I throw back to all of us, instead of more than advice, but rather a reflective thought, is, you need to take notice of these things And when you see how the world is falling apart, we're not supposed to be shocked. I'm not shocked that America is in turmoil. I'm not shocked that the American church is divided. I'm not shocked that China is a new economic powerhouse. I'm not shocked that they are preparing for war on all fronts. I'm not shocked that the trade war is going to kill us. I'm not shocked because that's how we were prepared to be. When you read end times, be it in the book of Luke or Revelations, you know these times are coming. But here's where I throw you the question. Till the day I see a church willing to die for the gospel rather than the continuation of being able to run a Sunday formal service or tell me which church is better, don't come and tell me your church is better. That's how I throw the benchmark. And till the day us as Malaysians are able to share the gospel in our national language, don't tell me that you are all for the gospel until you have learned to reach out to the main community within Malaysia. It's very scary, it's very convicting. Till the day you're ready to live the life that Pastor Raymond Koh was going to live, and a few others which I will not name, right? And maybe I might be gone after uttering his name also. But to live is Christ, to die is gain. The power of the Christian church is because that death has lost its sting, you see. So that's the kind of advice, more like something to think and muddle over. And I say this because it's been a burden in my heart. And Malaysian Christian Memes and Thoughts is just one of the small platforms by which it's trying to advance this cause, to reach out to a community in cyberspace and to jostle them, to remind them what it means to be a Christian, or more specifically what it means to be a Malaysian Christian. And yeah, so that's the advice. The advice is to wake up. And as I end this, I guess the last thing I'll say is, I know there'll be a Q&A session. Squeeze me dry. Ask what you think you need. Ask, disagree what you think you need to disagree, and I'll try to answer the best I can. But yeah, that's all I have, Jesse. I hope that was a mouthful. I'm so sorry.
Wow, no, that's so good, Adriel. I've never, of all the sessions I had, everyone is really good. But today was something that, I always believe each session will get better and better, and I always look in that perspective. And you have just, of all the sessions, I've been so touched, like really moved, like the way you mentioned. I also share the same feel, like how do we do the church today? It's not about being better than one another. It's how can we unite everybody together and point them to Jesus Christ. It's not about my church is better than yours. No, it's not. It's about unity. And as you said, we unite. Even when we do this podcast, you do your podcast, you need unity. We cannot do it alone. We cannot accomplish, but together we can accomplish much. And so I really agree there what you just said, so much true. And the other thing you brought to mind when doing this challenge is we need to anchor ourselves to Jesus. We need to be anchored, because if we're not anchored into something, we will be wavered and we will just lose hope. But when you're anchored to something, no matter what hits you, especially the pandemic, you will always get up. And that's what you shared, and that was something, wow, I picked up from what you just shared. Wow, that's just incredible. And you know what? And just to add from what you just said, I just felt so inspired with what you just shared. I just had this thought, it's nothing wrong. I mean, most countries, the governments are failing, but they are failing, the governments, but they are doing their best. We just want to continue to pray for our country, no matter who is the leader. Yes, we may despise them. We not say despise them, their actions, but we continue to pray for them. We continue to pray wisdom, so that they are appointed for a reason. And I think, just to add what you just shared is so powerful that I just got this out of my mind now, is that despite Saul being I think the story of Saul and David, right? Saul was still the anointed king, yet the people was trying to ask David to kill him, but David said, no, I still need to pray and attack over Saul. And that's what we call to do here as well. Like maybe whoever is governing our country right now, we may not like them, but we need to continue to pray for them, even though we despise them, because it's not the way we're called to despise them, hate. No, we're supposed to pray for them to lead.
Yes.
Wow, I found so much revelation from what you just shared. It was so so good with your sharing. And I hope for those tuning in over in Zoom and Facebook, I hope you guys inspired, and I just felt really moved and encouraged by Adriel's sharing. So we now move into the Q&A questions. I hope you all have scanned it. I'll give you about maybe 2 minutes if you all want. I'll jump to the next page. Give me a thumbs up, or whoever. Have you all scanned this? If you have scanned it, I'm going to jump into the question page. I hope you have scanned and you have your questions ready. Well, we give you a bit 2 minutes if you haven't. Adriel, wow, I just got to say, you know, the way you talked about how we need to unite, what you just shared about the challenging, and something I so like. How do you explain this? Like, wow, it hits me because it's so relevant to what I'm also feeling, and to a couple of my friends as well who also say, wow, it's just incredible what you're sharing, and then eye-opening. And I also believe that, you know, it's time for us, you know, to unite, as you mentioned earlier. And I think I like the way you mentioned how you're using the talk to the Malaysian Christian talk to do this kind of stuff, what you just mentioned. Just incredible. Yeah, you know, I'm hoping, you know, praying that more things God will bless you and use you even more, because I feel I'm really blessed from what you're just sharing. And now when I go through your podcast, I'm just saying, wow, those are really fantastic stuff, man. So
I'm truly humbled. Thank you so much, Jesse, for digging this out of me. Yeah. So yeah.
Truly blessed by your sharing and all that you do. I'm very inspired, you know, and that makes me inspired to move on with my this program that I'm running, you know. So wow, fantastic. Okay, we're just gonna go into the Mentimeter. That's where we're going to dive into the questions. We're going to see whether they have some questions popped up. So let me just hit into their moment, and you just refresh this. Give me 1 second. And then we'll dive into some of the questions. Okay. If you have some questions and you still want to ask, y'all can hear. Y'all can share it over here on the chat as well. Okay, we have one so far, so let me just.
Yay, one.
Well, it's still a good start. I think they're still thinking, but if they still want to ask, you guys can put on the chat box here as well in the Zoom chat box. But Adriel, can you see this as well?
Yes, I can. Very much clear.
Great. Yeah. I think the question is, what is burning in your heart to tell non-believers?
Right. Okay. I hope when I share this what's burning in my heart, and I hope my heart doesn't go chowta because of this. It's the same thing that you guys would hope also. It's the same concept where, you know, if you've tasted the best nasi lemak in the world, right? It's truly amazing. You would feel no joy to keep that nasi lemak to yourself, but you would want to say, hey, have you tasted this nasi lemak? Just try. And they go like, is it good? It's good. They say, yeah, it's good. So it's the same thing that's burning in my heart, but the difference is it is not nasi lemak that I want to tell non-believers. It is naturally, and it has to be the gospel. In Corinthians it says the love of Christ, the love of the gospel compels me. So the question that's thrown back to you is, does the gospel compel you as well? Yes. So that's what's burning my heart. That every non-believer I meet, I want them to come to realize that there is this God who is out there, who is watching, who calls all of us, and whether they want to respond to this truth of who they are and what God has done for them as well. So yeah, that's in short.
Okay, fantastic. Wow. Anybody else would like to just ask? I mean, I know maybe you didn't have time to scan the thing. Is there any last question before we wrap it up? Because I think it's really good. If you have, if you have more, if you don't have any questions now, but you have some questions to ask, I'm not sure, Adriel, if they put a
Joyce
chat.
Put up her hand just now.
Sorry?
Joyce put up her hand just now.
Oh yeah, Joyce.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Joyce, was that you who wanted to ask a question? Would you like to ask Adriel something, please feel free. Um, yeah. Okay.
No, that was her question.
Oh, okay, that's her question. Okay, yeah, that's great. Now the other thing I wanted to just add, if you guys have any further question, I'm not sure if whether it's a suggestion, maybe if they have question after this but they don't know how to direct, could they put the questions on Malaysian Christian, put a message to you over there, Adriel, if they have?
Oh yes, definitely. I will respond there. Yeah.
Okay, great. If you guys, I understand now, maybe you can't think of any question because the sharing was so deep. I really understand. Oh, wow. Speaking of which, we got one question here. Fantastic. How would you reach out to more people, and what would you say to someone who is persistent that they do not want to have the same belief? Wow, this is really interesting question, Adriel. Yeah,
It's a really good question. I guess for one, you have to recognize to not have a savior mentality, which means you're not called to be super successful to every person you share. Even Paul was in prison for 2 years, talked to, was it King Agrippa or someone, and he left that place without the person being converted at all. So there will be moments like this. But you see, the call that God calls us to do is not whether we are successful, because the answer is Christ has already won the victory. The call is whether at the end of the day, have you been faithful? Because at the end of the day, when you see the parables, it says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." So that I'll reach out. How do I reach out to more people? In whatever capacity that God has given me. And so far, the greatest capacity and the greatest privilege has been Malaysian Christian memes. And boy, do I tell you the stories that I've just heard from strangers and their brokenness, and how I'm able to at least speak life into that by God's grace and wisdom. It's truly been very humbling. So what will I say to someone who is persistent that they do not want to have the same belief? It's a very simple process, but it's to ask why, right? And you'll be surprised that usually their why comes from a position of bad experience or a sense of brokenness that creates the stubbornness. Just, you have to remember, no one is stubborn for fun. Okay, they are always stubborn for a reason. And so you have to go twofold. Number one, ask why, and number one, be the better friend as a Christian than the rest of his community, to show them that he is worth for a better word, the lost sheep is worth than that 99, right? So you remain as a friend. I have friends, non-Christians I'm journeying with for 7 years. I've been sharing the gospel. They can articulate the gospel clearly to me and still choose not to be a Christian, right? But again, I plant the seed. Maybe when I die, I'm not the kind of person that will see that person become Christian. I do not know. That's not up to me to figure out. That's up to God. What is up to me is that we have been called as royal priesthood to proclaim His excellencies no matter where we are at, whether it's at school, whether it's at work. And the question is then, whether they're persistent or not, do they see from us our primary identity as a Christian, not just as a Christian, as a faithful, loving, humble, gentle Christian, right? And when I say gentle, I don't mean lembek, okay? Gentle as in there's a sense of firmness, but you're not unnecessarily aggressive and you just want to fight kind of thing. But I hope I answered the question. If I failed to answer the question, feel free to clarify with me more. Yes, thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, Adriel. I think for those of you who have further questions, you can put it onto Malaysian Christian memes. You can just send it there. One of Adriel or the team will answer you there. But I know these are fantastic people. Adriel has been really a blessing. Even though I met him only 4 times, but through our first conversation I met with him, I knew him like, wow, this is somebody I want to be around it. And that's around him because I can really feel the anointing around him, and just to chat with him, I just feel the burning desire as what you just shared. I really felt the same impact in my heart, So with that said, thank you, Adriel, for your time. Really
welcome.
For coming on board and share with us what you have shared with us. I truly believe is a blessing to all of us. And just to wrap up, you know, you can emphasize again, you can follow MCT and MCM on Spotify, you can follow them on Instagram, and you can follow them on YouTube. Now MCT is also on YouTube as well. You can find them on the chat as well. And some recommendation, I'm doing some recommendation. The other thing that's coming up also to follow during this pandemic time, and follow, this is probably like a follow-up. What can I do during this pandemic if I'm stuck? I've got nothing to do, what can I do? So here's some recommendation. You can follow Malaysian Christian Talk, Malaysian Christian Memes. They will certainly fill your time. It's really interesting. And then there's a thing called the Leadership On podcast, which you can find also on Spotify and on YouTube. And lastly, I have a friend as well who just started this business called Panjan Jen Design. She's also on, you can follow them on Instagram and as well as on Facebook. What they do is they actually, come up with arts and crafts of all these Bible verses. So you can have a canvas on this as well. You can check them out on Panjan Jen Design. And they're really incredible to, if you need anything, you can just follow them on there. But yeah, these are some recommendations I can ask you to do. Of course, MCT I have to, because today is the session. But not only that, he's been an incredible friend of mine as well. I've known, and their talks are truly a blessing. So hopefully you guys will follow and hear it, because it has impacted my life as well when I listen to them, as well as the Christian memes. That has been a joy filler for me as well. I will have to say, Adriel, so well done. That was really something I enjoyed.
Thank you.
And so yeah, with that, I'm just gonna say thank you to our Facebook audience, and we'll just see you the next time around. So thank you to our Facebook friends. We'll see you again the next session, and hope you have a blessed week. Right, Adriel, thank you so much.
Yeah, my joy. Thank you so much for calling me in. Yeah.
I really just felt really blessed in that. I just have one more thing to share with my group of people after this, but feel free if you just want to stay in a little bit, because I just have one announcement for the group, which is coming up lah. So guys, next week I'm actually going to run a program called the Dating Session. It's basically, I think Adriel, you also know this topic. I found it really interesting. It's based from the HDB Church. They had the dating course, and I found it. And I was there in 2017 for Focus when I attended the session, and I found it really interesting. So guys, if you're really interested, we are going to dive into this topic next week. It's going to be compact into one session. It's actually three parts, but I'm going to compact it into one. We're going to watch the video, and we're going to discuss on what you all think about the session, whether you agree or disagree. This is going to be a pretty interesting session for all of us to learn. So yeah, with that, if not, that's all I have today.